you. This is Oakley. She's a horse in my barn. She's probably got the least amount of training of all my horses. So I thought she'd be perfect demonstrating horse because I have never done the sideways towards standing on her left side. So we're going to do that today. She's going to demonstrate for you a little later what it's going to look like when it's good, but you're going to get to see a horse work through something that they've never done before, which is going to be great for you for teaching your own horse. So let's go over some tools before we get started. She's got her rope halter on, of course, and she's got a 12-foot line. So a 6 or an 8-foot line would work as well. You don't need very much distance when you start, so the longer ropes just end up being very cumbersome. So start with a shorter line. Do not use a dressage whip. You need like a training stick that's got some stiffness to it, because you're going to need to bump your horse a little bit and it has to have some firmness. So use a training stick, a carrot stick, whatever you've got that's got firmness to it. If you are going to use the stick with the string attached, I want you to make sure that you hold all the string up in your hand so that nothing is hanging down, okay? Because that can end up having a detrimental effect and build confusion later on. So I want you to make sure, if you're going to use the stick and string, that you hold the whole thing up in your hand. One of the easiest ways is just to take your string off for this. Then you don't have to worry about trying to hold the string and all that good stuff. But if you are going to leave your string on, please make sure you hold it all in your hand, okay? There's two fundamental things I want you to play with before you start this task with your horse. And they're really, really simple. So I'm going to bring Oakley up. I'm going to turn her so you can see. Here's what I want you to do, okay? I want you to play with making sure your horse understands to move away from pressure on the hip. So we're going to play with tapping right here and having them move away from the tap. But I want you to think about it in 3 parts, okay? I want you to think about it as a rub the spot with you standing in neutral. Pick up your energy, tap the spot, wait for your horse to move away from the pressure, and then go back to neutral and rub them to a stop. So it's a rub, tap, rub, okay? So I'll show you. I'm in neutral, I'm not asking her for anything. Rubbing that spot. I'm going to pick my energy up, I'm going to tap that spot. And rub it until her feet stop. Okay, does that make some sense? Hope it does. So I want you to think about that concept of neutral, rub, energy up, tap, neutral, rubbed her to the stop. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time. Rub, energy up, tap, rub. Okay, I'm going to turn her around and show you the other side. I'm going to rub. No, you're not. Stop. Stop. Okay, hope you can still see me. We're going to rub. Energy up, tap, rub to a stop. Okay? When you're doing this also, make sure that you're tapping on the hip bone. Do not get too high up towards the spine of the horse or they can get confused. So when you're doing this task and teaching it to your horse, make really sure that you're tapping down on the hip bone so that they can really differentiate what you're asking for, okay? Later for refinement, we can get it so that we can bring it up closer to the spine, but for now, make sure you're distinctively tapping on that hip bone so that they clearly understand it. Your last piece of equipment that you need is something to stand on. When you start teaching a horse this task, some horses pick it up very quickly. Some horses take a really long time. So you may be standing with your arm in the air, asking them to come sideways towards you for a really long time. And if your horse is like mine and is this tall, your arm gets really, really sore really, really quickly. So my suggestion to you, even if your horse is shorter, is stand up on something to do this, okay? It just saves your arm, and then once your horse understands it, you'll be able to do it on the ground. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna stand on the opposite side of your horse, and you're gonna reach over and tap on the far hip and ask them to step that hip towards you, okay? That's the concept, I'm gonna demonstrate it. But this is the posture I want you to take, okay? I want you to be in neutral. You can be rubbing them. When it's time to ask, you're gonna go up, over, and tap on the far hip with your hand way up in the air like this. Because I'll tell you why I want you to do this. Down the road, I want you to be able to do it without the stick, and it's gonna look like this. You're gonna reach up and over, wiggle your fingers, and your horse is gonna step towards you with their hip and get underneath your hand. So while you're teaching it, just do that exact same posture with the stick in your hand, okay? It'll save a lot of retraining down the road, and we're looking to very quickly move through this teaching process and get it refined and get it looking really awesome, so you don't always need to depend on a stick, okay? So, to start, I'm going to assume your horse has never done this, and this is brand new. To start, what I want you to do, climb up on something. I want you to bring your horse between you and a fence or a wall, okay? And I'll tell you why. My demonstration horse is kind of weak. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why. When you start asking for the hip to come towards you, they're going to have a couple of, what you're doing is you're setting up a puzzle, okay? But to make it successful for a horse who is just learning this, you need to have it set up so that there's only so many answers that they can get from this puzzle, and one of them's the right one. So a common thing is when we reach over and tap the far hip is that they swing that hip away from us. So if you put them next to a wall, then it eliminates one of those options, okay? So they go to step towards the wall, and then they go, oh, that's not the right answer. Your other options that they're probably going to maybe try and do is go forward. You're going to have your rope in your hand, hold it pretty short, not too short, but you know, a good 18 inches to 20 inches. And if they go to step forward, you're just going to jiggle that rope with the little clasp a little bit and say, don't go forward. And then their next option is probably going to be to step backwards, okay? And then again, you've got the rope, they kind of hit the end of the rope and go, okay, that's not the right answer either. And then hopefully, the last response is the one that you want, and then you're going to reward it, okay? Also, make sure you got treats in your pocket, because when they get the right answer, I want you to make sure that you give them a good reward. So here we go. I'm going to demonstrate it, and then I'll talk my way through it. My arm will be in the air, so hopefully you can hear me if I'm talking underneath it. And we'll see what Oakley does. Again, she knows this on the other side of her, but she's never done it on this side, okay? So here we go. We're going to start. We're going to rub. I'm in neutral. She knows I'm not asking for anything. Rub as long as your horse needs you to, okay? If they're a little worried about you standing up over them with a stick, just rub. Maybe that's all you need to do today if your horse is really worried. But she's not too worried. She's just wondering what I want, okay? Ready? Here we go. We're going to do up, over, tap the far hip. And all you do is just tap in a rhythmic motion, and it's very light. If she's not trying, which she isn't, you're going to get a little heavier until she starts trying. And did you see that single step? Even if it was just a weight shift in the right direction, reward that. So again, I'm going to go back to neutral, give her a rub, and I'm going to give her a cookie. Tell her she was a really, really good girl. And let her soak on that for a minute, okay? That piece right there, I've seen it take as long as 6-7 minutes. All I want you to do is I want you to think about a metronome. You know a metronome, if you ever took piano, it does this, tick, tock, tick, tock. That's what I want you to do. I want you to just tap a rhythm and don't change it until they step towards you. Good girl. She's like, I'm ready to step towards you, don't you worry. Okay? The only time it changes, and it doesn't change to get faster, it just gets a little heavier, is if your horse stops trying. So they're not moving any feet, they're not thinking about it, they're not putting any effort into trying to figure out what you want. Then you need to get a little more persistent. And all you do is you just thump it a little heavier. And sometimes with some horses, especially draft crosses, they can tune you out and you have to get actually quite heavy. I doubt that will happen with your horse, but you never know. So again, don't get faster, just, I counted it. 1, 2, 1, 2, and then it just gets heavier if you need that to happen. You may not need it with your horse, but you never know. Okay, I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna step up on my block. I'm in neutral. I'm gonna rub. I'm gonna stand up and over, tap the far hip, and that's exactly the response I want. Okay? I rub to finish, I'm in neutral, and I give her a little. She works hard for food. So, that's the basics of playing with this game. That's the basic fundamentals of teaching it. Later on, in the next few days, I'm going to have a couple of my horses out working them through the weekend. So I'm going to film some additional footage for you, and I'm going to show you some more advanced what this will start to look like, okay? But this is your basics. I don't want you to start here before I get y'all confused with where we're going to go and how we're going to progress it. This is your fundamental basics of teaching sideways towards.